Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's episode 154 of the Audible Farm podcast, and this episode is brought to you by Couchtown Coffee. Couchtown Coffee is roasted right here in Iowa. It's my favorite coffee. I drink it every morning, and if you guys are coffee drinkers, I highly suggest you check it out. It's roasted, made to order, like I said, right here in Iowa, shipped to your door, and all you got to do is just grind it up and make the coffee at your house, and some of the best coffee you'll ever have. If you want to check it out, go to couchtowncoffee.com. Find a coffee you like. You can make an order, and when you do, let them know Audible Farm sent you, and they'll give you 20% off. Why? Because Couchtown Coffee is that awesome. Thanks, Couchtown. This week, I'm sitting down with Mike Walsh. Mike Walsh is a solo musician from Southwest Iowa, as well as when he has a band, he calls it the Mike Walsh Band. I'll tell you what, he just messaged me on, I think it was Instagram, and it took us a while to get this scheduled, but when we finally did get it scheduled, it worked out great. I loved the music that they sent over, or I found online, or however. Maybe I found it. I don't know. Either way, if I did, it's not hard to find. Mike Walsh, it's right there. We talk about his music in this episode and how he found me online, because that was another thing was he was the one who found me and messaged me, and I didn't have any friends in common with him or anything, so I thought it was kind of crazy that somebody found me organically like that. So we kind of talk about the power of being on social media and checking that stuff out, as well as what it's like to craft your first album, or the difference between making an album versus an EP or versus a single, or it's just kind of nice to see that he's done what he's done in about 2 years or so. And, it's just kind of nice to see that, COVID didn't stop him, So that's one of the things I thought kind of made me smile when I was listening to all this, thinking about it. It's in a time frame where a lot of people have done a lot of things that we didn't think we would do during COVID. We're all picking up new hobbies and doing crazy stuff like that. And it's kind of neat. It's nice seeing people actually go out there and do it. And he's out there making music, recording EPs and singles. I highly suggest you guys check it out. His social medias are down below. We'll talk about that in the outro, though. This is episode 154 with a new buddy I met online. His name is Mike Walsh.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
Today I'm sitting down with Mike Walsh. Mike, you and I don't know each other. You found my podcast on the internet through some searching for hashtags and things like that, which is, to me, wild. I can't believe somebody just organically found the podcast.
Yeah.
Because usually it's just I heard one of my buddies on there. Let's see if we can get on there, and this is completely new.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing that I like to do is, because I try and be active on social media, Instagram and Facebook specifically. So one thing that I'll do is I'll search through hashtags or other bands, local bands and whatnot. I'll go to their pages and see who they've interacted with. And yeah, I can't remember exactly how I found it, but I know it was through that. Either it was the hashtags or somebody else, but I saw the page and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. This is awesome that somebody's doing this. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I do have to apologize. It did take me a couple of weeks to get back to you, too.
No worries. No worries at all.
For those that don't know, I get emails, and I get personal emails, and I get personal messages and Facebook messages, and I get them everywhere from every angle, and sometimes I forget to check stuff. And the worst part about all this is Instagram is the world's most popular app. It surpasses Facebook now, and it's probably one of the message platforms I check the least, which is the dumbest thing anyone could ever do. So I apologize. But for all the people out there listening that said he hasn't got back to me yet, I'll get back to you. I swear I will. I swear I will. So you ended up finding the podcast semi-organically, which yes, blows my mind. And I sat down and listened to your album last week, the new one that came out called Glad, and then I went through and peeled through all your old ones even. And I said,
Yeah.
this is actually pretty decent stuff, and I just said, I'm going to sit down and talk with this guy. And I was literally sitting in my car in the driveway with the air conditioning on, just full blast, listening to your album when I pulled up one day and was like, I'm going to listen to all of these just sitting right here in the car. And then I messaged you when I was done. I was like, hey, we need to get you on the podcast.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I mean, it does mean a lot because it's one of those things where, to me at least, this is how I, kind of feel about it. Writing music or making music, to me, at some point you have the finished product and you put it out there, and you hope that other people are going to enjoy it as much as you do. And even then, I mean, I'll say that, and the reason why I'm always recording is because I'll release something, and for about a day or two, I'll be satisfied in terms of, putting it out there. And then I listen to it again. I'm like, I need to get back in the studio and record again. I gotta record to the next thing. I gotta push myself to be better musically. So, yeah.
Do you ever run into that thing where you listen to your music back and you're like, I wish I would have done this instead?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. Almost every song, I think it's one of those things that you go back, and of course you could always do it better because you're always growing as an artist or learning from other people. And it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I could have gone back. But I mean, it's all part of the process too. At some point, you got to be satisfied enough to release it. And then, be okay with that, but then also want to keep pushing forward. But yeah, I would say, and it might even be small details that to me, I notice that other people might not. But yeah, to me, most definitely, yeah, I have that.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the worst part about being a musician, is being like so self-critical, is you're just,
Yeah.
I talked with somebody recently about this, believe it or not, like a pop singer. And she was just like, yeah, I got this album, I put it all together, and I wish there was some things I would have done differently on it. And it's like, yeah, but if you just sat there and like keyed in on that the whole time, the album would have never come out, and that's the same thing with like singles, EPs, everything,
Right, exactly.
And you brought up a good point. At some point in time, you got to be satisfied enough to just be like, this is done, and put it out there and move on to the next project and go from there, because that's
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I have no music out personally. That's why I play with other musicians, because my computer sits here with all this junk on it that I just never release because I'm too critical. And do you find it hard to finish a project? Let me ask you that.
It all depends. I mean, I'll have, just in the writing process, there's a lot of songs that I have that are not finished. And then the ones that I've obviously recorded are ones where I was okay enough, going forward with it. But it kind of just comes and goes. There's some days where I'll sit down and write a song in like 10 minutes. And I'm like, okay, that's how it's going to be. And I'm not going to change it. And that might just be the main lyrics and chord progression. And then sometimes I'll spend even more time working on it. But I think the songs that I've released, the ones that I have out, I would say those are the ones where it was in one afternoon. I wrote the song, the lyrics, the chord progression. It was like, okay, I'm going to go with this and build the rest of the song around it. And that's what it's going to be. So, but there are a lot of unfinished songs.
Okay. All right, good. Good. I was just like, is this guy just a wizard or what? Is he just putting out albums?
No, not at all. And that being said, in no way do I claim to be like, oh yes, yeah, it only takes me 5 minutes. It only takes me 10. No, because once again, I write it and I'm like, you listen back to it, I'm like, I can always get better at this, always be better.
Yeah.
No, I would say, yeah. And when I say in one afternoon, I'm referring to usually just the lyrics and then the main chord progression. I'll go, show it to somebody else that I know plays either like drums or bass or whatnot, and see what they think of it, and then, tweak it from there. But I would say the core idea of the song, that's what I'm referring to.
So are you primarily a guitarist then?
Yes. Yep. Guitar.
Have you ever dabbled on anything else?
Oh, I was gonna say. I mean, like, I could try and get on the kit and play, but I'm not that good. But I'll play in my shows sometimes. I'll bring out harmonica play if I'm going to, like introduce myself, yes, I play guitar.
Yeah. But I mean, that's cool that you bring the harmonica out though sometimes too, though.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's fun too because there's people see that and they're like, "Oh yeah, the harmonica!" Like they get excited, which is great because then I'm having fun playing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was something like I grew up playing a lot of like metal and punk and things like that, stuff that doesn't fit the harmonica, But then I started playing at jam nights and stuff with like singer songwriters, and every time they'd bust out a harmonica, I'm like, "Sweet, this is so cool!" Like, this.
Yeah.
I always thought it was funny. So many of the singer-songwriter guys are just like, I can't play solos, but then they bust out a harmonica, and it's like, yeah, but you're playing two instruments at once, dude. You don't need anybody to play solos. You got the harmonica.
It's not every song. I'll bring it out for a few different ones. But you do bring up an interesting point because when I first started getting into playing music and playing live, which would have been around... I would say 10 years ago is when I started getting into guitar, playing guitar. I would say around 5 years ago is probably when I started playing with bands. And in the beginning, my influences were like punk rock. We were a punk rock band, but I've since changed, into a more like acoustic based or like folk type music. But and when I was first playing, it was definitely punk, and then it's, kind of transitioned into something different. But once again, I mean, that's just part of like me and the writing process and playing, growing and changing to what, I enjoy playing now. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely found that too, because when I was growing up, I was like, it's got to be heavy, got to have distortion, chug, 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 all that stuff. But
as loud as it can be.
Yeah. And then the older I got, I was like, it's kind of nice to hear some clean guitar sounds every now and then,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guilty. One of those guilty people where it's like I've got way more electric guitars than acoustic guitars. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, whatever. But yeah, it is kind of weird how our tastes and styles change over the years. And I was actually gonna bring that up, like. What, like you said, you were in a punk band originally. Was that like kind of what first got you into music, was listening to punk rock, and then you were like, let's give this a whirl? Or was it like your buddies were playing it and you were like, I guess I've got a guitar in the closet, let's try this out? Or how did it all start out?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Well, now that I think back, I think it was just at the time, because it was when I was in college. So it would have been, 2014, 15, around then when I started playing. And I think it was just at the time what my buddies and I we listened to, more like punk rock. Because if you would have asked me then, I would have said like Green Day is a big influence, which I still listen and can enjoy, but my influences have changed in the music itself. Because if you listen, which it's it's something else, but the old stuff that I played, it is drastically different than the stuff that I have released now.
Yeah.
So I think it was just sitting around. That's what we listened to at the time, and playing, basement shows where it was loud and everybody was partying, and it was just fun, loud and fun. So.
I love basement shows. So like I've recently gotten into like the singer-songwriter realm. Not me personally, but I accompany a handful of singer-songwriters. And when I tell them about like the basement show gigs that I play with the punk band I'm in, they're like, what? And it's like, yeah, that's a thing for real. Like people will pay you money to go to their basement and rock out, and everyone's just partying and having a good time. And
yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of a weird gear change to go from one to the next. So it's kind of nice to know that like you have the availability to have been on both sides of that coin as well, though, too.
Yeah. Because there are a lot of fun times if, I was going to say, if anybody has the opportunity to go to like a basement, like punk show, like you totally should. It's a real fun time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is kind of fun though too. You brought up a really good point about how like your musical tastes have changed. For you, it was Green Day, and you could still enjoy them nowadays, which I totally get. But like, I grew up and I was a big. We're just gonna call it out. I don't know if I've ever even said this on the podcast. I was a huge Newfound Glory fan. Like,
Yeah.
They were like my favorites, best band ever. They're so good, you know, and now I can still listen to them. They're still good,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I would consider them my favorite, you know. And there's still songs that they put out where I'm like, this
Right.
song's cool, that song's cool, but it's not what I'm like putting on as my daily driver listening music anymore.
Sure.
Nor would I even
Yeah.
say it really like influences me too much,
Yeah.
you know.
Because
But
that's the thing. I mean, if someone were to ask me, like I said before, I would say Green Day, and you could hear that, but you would not hear that in the music. My most latest stuff that I've released, you would not hear that.
so what do you think caused the gear change between the two then? Because I mean,
To be honest, I don't know.
it's only like a 2 to 3 year time span we're talking here.
Yeah.
From like your earliest stuff
to
to your newest stuff.
Right. I think I just wanted where I was at in life. I think I just even personally was wanting to, I wouldn't say change, but I was going through different things to where in one way or another influenced my music, and the music specifically. I wanted something that was different from the punk stuff. I wanted to create something that sounded different specifically. And that's what Smile, that EP, that was like the my first solo project, I'd say. And it started out, those songs are pretty heavily acoustic based. And from there, I mean, I was just going to be me and acoustic guitar, but I think from there, my buddy Alex Chapman, he came and wanted to play drums, so he played drums on the EP, and then Caleb played bass. So I think at first it started out as one thing, and then after talking to those guys, it kind of became a little bit more, and they also helped shape how the songs sounded. But yeah, I think it was just wanting something different, create something different that would push me musically into a new direction.
So I'm assuming, based on that you kind of write all this stuff and make the whole shell yourself on an acoustic guitar, or do the thing where you sit at home and you're like, I kind of got this song pretty much written, and then you kind of just pawn it out from your buddies, like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And then you just kind of get a little bit of input here and there. Do you see yourself ever putting out like a whole acoustic album, just you and the acoustic, or do you think that having your buddies say, let's throw some bass and drums on here, do you think that's going to be like a permanent fixture?
I would say, I mean, even trying to get a full-length album out is another goal that I have. It's hard when it comes down to time and money. So I would like to. And once again, and that's the thing, I'm always down for trying something. Like, I would love to, and that's an idea that I think would be awesome. But once again, it's trying to figure out, you know, where am I gonna spend the money and time and energy, and it just ends up being that with those songs, that with the other guys, they end up being something more.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of just paralleling this to some of the singer-songwriters I hang around with. I'm assuming live you do solo stuff?
Yes. Right now, mainly, yeah, I'll do solo acoustic shows, which I'll do a bunch of covers, but then also throw in my original music. But yeah, so it's me and the acoustic guitar.
I mean, that's the way to do it for anybody wondering how to do it. Play covers and toss in your originals, and sometimes people don't even know.
Right.
They're just like, who wrote that one? And you're like, I wrote that one. They're like, what? No way.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that was me. Just turns the hat backwards. Yeah, that was me. So have you ever like invited any of your buddies to come up and play leads with you on anything, like on a live setting before?
There've been a few times, yeah. And I was gonna say the two guys that when I have the full band, which is me, bass and drums. Alex Chapman is the one who's on drums, and then Sam Ripley is the bassist. So the last show we all played together was, I want to say probably 2 years ago now. But coming up next month, we'll all be together for the music festival in Muscatine.
Oh, cool.
Yep, on the September 4th, we're playing for that Muscapalooza. So it'll be real fun because we haven't played together in so long, and we're getting ready for it, and we're all pretty excited.
Oh
So,
yeah. I will have to say, like, as exciting as it is to put out an album, there's still nothing better than playing live. I don't know if you caught that.
oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing too. Yeah, I love the whole writing and recording process. I love being in the studio. At the same time, though, I absolutely love, like, yes, playing live. There's like nothing that compares to it, and especially when the whole band is there. I enjoy playing solo acoustic, but with a band, I feel like there's more energy there that you can play off one another.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. Sometimes, I mean, that's that weird thing because I've seen people play solo shows and they're in command, and they can take the crowd wherever they want to go. But sometimes with the full band, it's everybody just kind of starts to feed off each other, and then the crowd can kind of tell that everybody up there is having a great time, and they kind of feed off you as well. So I really don't know if there's like one that's better than the other, honestly. Like,
Right.
It's definitely fun to play with other people. I've played a couple solo shows before. Just terrifying. I don't know how you guys do it. Like, that's all I gotta say. It's just you and an acoustic. It's wild stuff, man. I don't know how you guys can do it.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of nice in some ways because if you mess up, it's literally just you. So
Yeah, true.
you can play it off way easier than when it's with the band. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. It's tough when somebody else hits a sour note or messes something up, and you're like, "What are you doing over there?"
Yeah.
You're just doing the whole like it was that guy.
Right. Yeah, but like you're saying, I mean, there's pros and cons to both, and I enjoy doing both. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I wish I was more comfortable playing solo. Did it take a lot of guts for you to get up there the first time solo? Like going from like the band punk rock phase to now we're gonna do acoustic stuff solo. Was it tough to go from one to the next?
Yeah, I'd say so because I'm just thinking back to different shows and whatnot. Because with like the punk rock band, it was kind of it was loud, it was at parties. It's punk, so who cares? We're just having a fun time. But with solo acoustic shows, yes, it's fun, but you're playing, especially those longer shows, covers that people are wanting you to know how to sing, know how to play.
Yep.
But so yeah, I would say at first, but I've obviously gotten more comfortable with it, and just with every new show that you play, you just gain more confidence in the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I guess maybe that's where I went wrong, just playing two and quitting.
Well, and I don't know, because I mean, there's some people that I've seen play to like huge, massive crowds, and a lot of shows that I play solo acoustic shows, they'll be in bars and breweries and whatnot. So there's all sorts of different levels, and some guys when they get up, some people when they get up there, it's like, holy cow, how can you do that in front of that many people? But yeah, I guess I've always had the attitude in life to basically just screw it, just do it.
Yeah.
And so at first, as nervous as I was like, this is something I want to do. I'm going to push myself past being uncomfortable and get up and play music. And so far, in terms of the music side of stuff, it's worked out.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think that's like not too far off from like what kind of got me to calm my nerves too. Cause like I played guitar growing up and then I quit through like most of my 20s. And then in my late 20s, I picked the guitar back up and I was so nervous to go up in front of people and play. And I don't know why. I think some of it was just the whole fact where I was like, somebody out here is going to be better at the guitar than I am. And they're going to like pretty much just call me out from the crowd and be like, this guy sucks or what. But nobody ever did that. And I don't think I've ever heard or seen that happen once in my life anyways. So, like, I don't know what I was so scared of. But eventually I just told myself, like, I don't think there's anybody else out here that can do what I'm doing, regardless of what I'm doing, whether it be play the notes I'm playing or play the exact songs we're playing or whatever it happens to be. So it's kind of one of those things where I just thought to myself, well, I don't think anyone's going to crap talk me, but if they do, it's just like, well, you get up here and play then, and I've been lucky enough not to have anybody, call me out on it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, like another thing with that is, like in terms of the music and playing. I think I just realized, you know, I'm going to try and be the best musician that I can be. And, you know, getting up there playing, this is what I'm showcasing. This is where I'm at. Because I'm sure I've played with people and seen people that, yes, there's always going to be somebody that's going to be better than you. But it's like, you know, I'm going to be the best version that I can be and showcase what I have. But at the same time, being able to play and learn from people who are, you know, who are better than you, like, you learn so much from them. That's another thing. Always learning, always pushing to be better.
Yeah, you were saying that earlier, like learning from your friends and things, and like that's an important thing too. Because if it hadn't been for me going to jam nights with my buddies and actually like learning some stuff from them,
Yeah.
it was just like I don't know if I'd be where I'm at today if it wasn't for them. You know, some of it comes down to watching your buddies play, and then being like, "What was that thing you did there?" And then they'll show you, or you watch what they do really close, and then you go home on your own in your own basement and you try it out so you don't embarrass yourself or whatever. But I've started realizing like it doesn't matter who's playing the guitar. I find that like everyone can do something I can't do on the guitar, if that makes sense. Like it doesn't matter who's playing at jam night. It's like this dude played a flurry of notes that my brain never thought of playing before, you know, or I've never tried that pattern.
Yeah.
And even if it's some of the, like
Right.
the singer-songwriter guys that can't play solos, like it's like, oh, you're playing chords, but you're trilling through the chords on these like weird like little hammer-ons and pull-offs that I don't do any of that
Right.
stuff. So I've learned to like
Yeah.
really enjoy other people's talent levels and not be as judgmental as I was in my teenage years, where like I said, I was just like punk rock and metal and it's got to be heavy and you know.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
I'm starting to actually like realize you know, I guess there's a place for everyone in music, and that's, you know, I think that's something important that a lot of people need to understand. And if you're having troubles with it, you know, just kind of think about it. Because that was pretty much the reason I quit playing guitar. I mean, I was just like, everyone's better. But everyone I've talked to on the podcast, it's like, how'd you get better? Let me ask you this. How did you get better at the guitar?
How did I?
Yeah.
So when I first started playing guitar, I tried teaching myself, which for me, just how I learn, I've got to have somebody show me.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up lessons with a guy down here in Creston, Dustin Baird, who he plays shows. He used to play in a band. He teaches. So he taught me how to play guitar. And then from there, once I went to college, I moved away, stopped taking lessons with him. But I mean, that's where I went to school at ISU, and they have a huge like music community of different musicians. There was even like a music club, genre music club that I was a part of. So just meeting, talking, playing with other people. I think I just realized there's so many different musicians that you can learn so much that for me, I just put myself out there, like, you know, like you were saying, how did you do that? Or like, what was that thing you played? And just being able to learn from all sorts of different people.
Yeah. That's I mean, that's like one of the things I'm finding out is like everyone, they go out in their community and they play in their community, or they practice, or I mean, there's like these cornerstones that almost seem obvious, but at the same time not, you know, where it's like, oh, go figure, practicing makes you better, you know, go figure, like asking questions helps you understand things. Like, I mean, it's almost like obvious life lesson stuff as opposed to just music stuff. But it's kind of funny how it seems like almost every time I ask the question, they come back with like pretty close to the same answers. It doesn't matter who it is, you know. And I mean, that's me too. Like you said, if it wasn't for going out to jam nights and watching other people play and hopping in with them and trying it out, like I wouldn't be where I was at either, you know.
Right.
You were
then, like you said, obviously, trying to practice every day.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I found for that was to leave one of the guitars out on a stand as often as possible, because then it's just there and you just pick it up and play. I remember a buddy of mine had told me that he took guitar lessons, and his guitar teacher, that's how his guitar teacher got good. And he would pick it up when he would watch TV, and he would play along with the intro music to TV shows and then he'd play like during commercials, and that's like how he would practice.
Yeah.
But then the guy, like, before you knew it, could play like every TV show theme song.
Yeah, that was his thing.
Which is like pretty wild.
Intro to every TV show.
Yeah, you're just like out there like playing Sanford and Son, something like. That'd be so sweet. I mean, that'd be an awesome parlor trick. Let's be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
You were talking earlier about like maybe wanting to put out a full album, which kind of brings me to a topic I like to try to bridge here. So like, I've been on a few recordings here and there, not many, but as far as like full albums, they seem to be pretty few and far between these days.
Yeah.
Do you think that is because of how the music system's kind of working now, or do you think it has something to do with streaming or social media and promotion have something to do with it, or is it the attention span of the average population that doesn't want to wait 12 months for a new album? Like, what do you think is causing this weird kind of shift, or do you think there is a shift?
I'm no expert, but I just know from talking to other musicians and people who record music and whatnot. It's a little bit of everything that you said that we kind of came to like a conclusion. I think it has a lot to do with everything's on your phone, everything's fast paced. Want to have it right now, and that's why singles or EPs that have 2, 3, 4 songs for people to listen to is what people want. They want it right now. And so in turn, it's easier to put out a single or 2 songs versus waiting to make an album. That being said, I would say there's still a lot. I would say there's a big enough community of people and musicians that still are recording albums, full-length albums, and people who still want to listen and buy, vinyl or full-length albums. I think it's just everything that you mentioned that makes it, I don't know if it would be difficult, but it just makes it different, and that's the thing too. I'm just going based off of the trends that I've seen in the last 5-6 years in terms of music, because that's when I really started getting into it. I have no idea, compared to 10 years, 20 years ago. I don't have firsthand knowledge of what it was like, but once again, just talking to people, it's was different. And I don't know if that, like I said, I don't know if that's a bad thing. I just know it's something that's different. But you're just adjusting to, I guess, the trends. But yeah, I would absolutely love, that is a main goal of mine, that I would want to come out with an album. And I think it's just the fact of me saying like, yes, I've made an album, I've recorded an album, this is it.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I think like back in like the 50s and 60s, it was when music was getting really popular. There was records everywhere. Singles were popular. You had those little tiny 45s that everybody had with like one song on one side and one song on the other, and you'd release the really popular one with a less popular one on the other side, or something that wouldn't be on the album, on the full album. So then you'd try to entice people to buy the single, maybe put a B-side on there or something. And I think somewhere in like the 80s or 90s, it was just like non-cost effective or something to put out singles. They just like almost never happened anymore. Although I do remember buying some singles on CDs, which like, what a waste of a CD, like I was talking with somebody about that the other day. Like we were listening to some music. I was like, I had this single, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I had it on CD. And it was just like, just crossed my mind. Like, what a waste. Like you could put so much music on here, but
sure.
But now that everything's digital, you don't have to like fill up an entire space with music anymore. You don't have to fill the whole box with music or whatever, so you can just put them out one at a time. And like you said, everybody's got the short attention spans. We want what we want, and we want it right now, and you want as much of it out as possible, which I agree with 100%. I am that way. I'm wired that way too, but I also feel like there's a tipping point where if somebody's releasing one single every couple weeks, sometimes you're just like, wait, was this the single you released last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? you know, so you end up with this weird area where it's like you don't want to
Right.
overexpose too, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the whole posting on social
Right.
media. If you post like 7 times a day, people aren't going to see everything. But if you post like, you know, once a day or
Yeah.
once every other day, people start to take
Yeah.
notice, you know. And
Yeah.
it's that weird happy medium. Do you think it would be like, here's another thing I think about. Like, do you think it's easy to put out a single? Because it almost feels like it's a naked track sitting out there. Because I noticed that on you only have one song on Spotify that's a true single. The other ones at least have another song accompanying it.
Yeah.
Or an EP
Yeah.
style where you have like 4 on there. Which
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
see here. Drop a Dime, that's got 4 on it, and
Yeah.
Smile's got 4 on it. So the new one is called Glad, and it's got
Yeah.
two songs on it.
Yeah.
So what's your thought process behind this one's got 4, that one's got 1, this one's got 2? You know, what's your thought process behind that? Or was it like, this is just all I have at the moment?
Yeah. I think it was different for each one. I mean, we'll start with Glad, the one that has just 2 songs on it. I recorded both of those songs when everything was shut down and there's like no live music, nobody was doing anything. I think I was sitting there and I basically was like, why am I sitting here? I want to record songs. So I had 2 songs that I knew I wanted to record and I just wanted to get them out. So I did. With Drop a Dime, which the single off of that is One More Beer, which I really pushed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one was just coming off of Smile, which also had 4, and for whatever reason, to me, 4 seemed manageable for an EP. But I don't think there was anything in my mind that was like, this one is going to be 4, it has to be 4, and you know that's what it is. I think it just kind of happened to where I want to put something out. I've got this amount of songs, and this is what I have right now. And it just kind of organically like worked out that that's what's going to end up, what I'm going to end up releasing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, maybe there was more thought process, but when I look back, I think it was just, I have these songs. I really want to put them out. And so we're going to run with it.
Yeah. I mean, if you sat down and look at the time frame for everything too, it's, in the course of a year, you put out like 8 songs. That's pretty much an album in a year, you know?
And that's the thing I thought about it. I'm like, well, if I just waited.
Yeah. But if you just waited, you wouldn't have had that traction from 2019 until now, you know?
Yeah. But it's fine because, I mean, like each one to me is another, you know, milestone of releasing, you know, what I, at the time is going to be my best thing that I can come out with, and then going on to the next thing.
Yeah,
So.
I think that'd be like one of my biggest fears if I tried to put out an album would be like, I've got 5 good ideas and 5 mediocre ideas, and now let's try and smush it all into one album and just say, deal with it, you know? Or like,
Yeah.
I haven't put anything out, so.
Because, yeah, I would want to, well, in any of the other songs that I came out with, I would want, you know, at the time that it's released, you know, be proud of it and not at it to be like, well, it was okay. It's like, well, no, at the time that I came out with it, yes, I was proud of this. This is where I was at musically, and that's how it is. And then you can move on. But yeah, I wouldn't want to at the time of releasing it, well, you know, feel like, well, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, you want to be able to be proud of that.
Yeah. I mean, like, that. I think that also allows you room for growth, too, where I feel like if you were trying to focus on just one album, you might end up, like, pigeonholing yourself into, like, one sound on that one album. Not that everyone does it, but it,
right.
You know, I feel like, you know, a full album has, like, a sound to it, and then the next album has a slightly different sound to it. But if you put out the EPs and the singles and the 2 or 3 songs on a little mini EP, that works well because then you can kind of get away with more. I feel like you can even mix up EPs a little bit better than you could a whole album.
Right. Yeah. And I would say each one, like you were saying, has a different sound or like tone or come to mind. basically each one has a different feel to it, in terms of not only the listening experience, but with the artwork or anything like that. Definitely a specific feel. So I would, at least for me, if I were going to come out with an album, I would want it to be consistent, or feel as though, the songs are going to be different, but at least they're going to sound like they all belong together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You said artwork. I do have to say, like, one of the first things that drew me to you when I saw your message was like, this guy's got a great logo. So hats off to that. Yeah. Let's talk about that like a tiny bit. Do you think it's important to have a logo for your band or yourself?
I do, just because you're branding yourself. I guess it depends on, what everybody has different goals on where they want to go with the music. And for me, I guess it's starting out building that brand. What is this? What is my music, portray? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like to people? So I think it is. And it's a way to identify, because with any logo, you see it, you recognize what it is. It might not even have to have, the actual name on it. So I would say it's important, but that doesn't mean that I guess everybody has to have one, because everybody has different routes where they want to go musically, I'd say.
Yeah, that's a very good point too. I've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, and I comment sometimes on things I see online where, some people are like, oh, I paid this person to record this thing, or we had to get all these different lights, or artwork, or we recorded an album or something. It's like, well, I know people that don't do any of that, and they do just fine musically. They make money doing what they're doing. They're happy doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're doing it wrong. It's just they're doing it the way they want to do it. But also, like you said, that the logo is a good way to identify what's going on pretty straightforward just by looking at it, That's right. Believe it or not, I was talking to somebody that I knew that went to school for marketing, and they were saying our brains make a judgment based on the logo of something before we even try the product out. Which,
yeah, I believe that.
They said the easiest way to talk about that would be restaurants. And I was like, I never even thought about that. But like, if you go to a restaurant and it's just like, this place looks too vintage, or it needs an update or something, you kind of like go into the place thinking that already about like the food and things like that, whether or not it's true, I don't know. But I guess in my opinion, it might be a little bit true, but but also, like, if I was just doing this podcast and I didn't have the logo if I didn't pay someone to have the logo out, somebody would just be like, oh, it's just some schmuck who took a selfie and put his face all over everything. And it's like, no, we're going to try our best to make this as professional as possible. But logos are easy to identify. Yeah. Like you said, they don't even have to have words on them. Apple, Target, Amazon. Those are like the three of the biggest companies in the world. So
exactly. And you recognize what it is. Yeah, it's just a very good way to identify, who you are. So yeah. Plus, I like the artwork. I thought it was cool. The guy who designed it, Dylan Anson, he's from Creston. And he also actually designed the One More Beer logo. Nice. And the Drop a Dime, the text. And so I gave him an idea and basically was like, see what you can come up with. He made that, and I was like, that's awesome. That's what we're going with.
That's sweet.
I've used him for the last few projects, and he's great at what he does. So, and he loves doing it too.
Mm-hmm. That's super cool. You gave him a shout out on the podcast. That's something I don't feel like is done enough, is the people behind the scenes making the music. You're making the music, but without the artwork, it's a little incomplete. So you got to give your big ups to the artists out there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Once again, I didn't make my logo, and if somebody asked me to make my logo, it would have been like a stick figure pig. It would have been so horrible.
Well, that's the thing. My logo. No, I did not create it, and I would not have been able to. I couldn't. It'd be the same. It would be just like plain text. I'd be like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, does this look good? Yeah, it's just Geneva 13 font on a black square. Like, exactly. looks great. Like,
Yeah.
Oh man. So what do you think some of the biggest obstacles you've had to overcome as far as creating music have been? Because like we were talking about earlier, this is 2019 until now, so you've got a little over 2 years under your belt
Yeah.
as far as putting music out. What do you think are some of the biggest obstacles you've had to overcome? Or what was the thing that made you be like, I'm doing a solo album?
And when I try and think back, I don't know if it was ever a defining moment or if it was kind of like right now. I'm like, yes, a goal of mine would be to come out with a album, and then whenever that is going to be, whenever that comes along, will just sort of happen. But I mean, there's different things here and there. Such as, first playing those shows, getting out there, being nervous, getting over that sort of thing, getting over how we touched on, like, well, this could be better, but being satisfied enough to release it. But for the most part, I enjoy the challenge. I mean, like the first time, in the studio, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but it was like, to me, like, that's fun, and trying to like push, trying to, be better.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that kind of answers it, because it's also hard because I'm not entirely sure. I think I was like, this is something I want to do, and I'm going to, take the steps to get there.
Nice. That brings me to another question. Do you record your stuff in-house, or do you have somebody help you record stuff?
So for the Smile EP, and I'm going based off the solo stuff that I've recorded because that's the most recent. For the Smile EP, recorded it at Caleb, I'm going to pronounce his last name wrong, but Kenan. He had his own in-home studio. So we recorded in Nevada, Iowa for Smile. Then I recorded with him again for Drop a Dime. He moved the studio to Ames. And then for the Glad EP, Cole Neese, who drummed on the Glad, I was talking to him, hey, I want to record this song Glad. I want you to play drums. And we were looking for a studio, and he's like, well, how about we just do it at my house? And I was like, oh, okay, sure. So Glad we recorded at his place. And then the second song on that EP, A Song for Someone, I did all of that at my house.
Oh, yeah. No way.
Yeah, because I wanted to, once again, I wanted to try and do something different that was new. So, yes, the only thing is we did send it off to be mastered. Somebody else did that because I couldn't do that. So.
Oh, man. For people not watching, I'm giving him the rah, rah, rah hands. It's it's a necessity. Let's face it.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, like, it comes back down to this. Like, I record podcasts. I record audio, but it's like recording music is a completely different beast than just recording two people talking. Yeah. Anybody can record somebody with a microphone and make it sound decent, but like, let's be honest though. Once you have everything recorded, even if you can record, guitars and drums and everything, like mixing it correctly, not easy. And then when you want to make a whole album, trying to make every song the same volume, all the same things coming out at the same levels, like not easy. So.
Yeah. And I think I realized early on that. That was going to be a necessity, and that was something that I was most definitely going to have somebody else do. Like, I know that I can't mix and master as well as a lot of people. Like, I would not even say that I can at all. So, like, yes, I enjoy, giving it to somebody to be able, I mean, that's why they have sound engineers or people who do that full time, because they know what they're doing. Yeah. So yeah.
I agree too.
I learned very early on that like that is.
I think you said it right there too. Like it's not like you can't do it. It's not like I can't do it, but we can't do it as well as somebody else who does that as like their specialty. So it's nice to give them, the ability to do it, or like. it's like you could probably fix a car if you needed to, and so could I, but I think I'd rather take it to a mechanic.
It won't be done right.
Yeah, exactly. And if we're not changing oil, I'm not doing it,
But yeah, that is a very good, comparison. I would not say I know how to work on a vehicle. I can't fix it. No, I would take it to somebody. So that's a very, very good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, plus it always comes out sounding better, and it helps everyone out, because you're just like, oh, I paid this guy a little bit of money. I get his name out there, or her name, or their name, or the company's name. But then you get to reap the benefits of having the album that sounds good, or the EP that sounds good, and I'm not trying to poke fun at anyone or say anything, but I've seen some albums come out that were rushed, unfortunately. Like, that'd be like the nicest way I could say it. And when you see bands live and you're like, these guys are killing it, and then they come out with this album that's put out prematurely, or they don't take the extra time or go the extra mile to have it mixed or mastered, and then you're like, oh no, like, you guys are one of the best bands out there, and this album doesn't do you justice. Or like,
right.
Do you think there's a way you can go too far with that, though? Like, can you shine up an album so nice that by the time you go try to play it live, it's all of a sudden the album's too good now, or is that a thing?
It might be. I think that it very well could be. I think for me, just because I've recorded and played before, I know that recording is gonna be it. When people listen to it, it's not gonna change. So you want to do everything that you can. I mean, obviously, yes, live, but if you make a mistake in a recording, you got to redo it.
Yes.
You just have to. If it's live, I can get past that. That's fine. But I think it's the fact that that's there, and that's there more or less forever. And so you're wanting it to be the absolute best. But
yeah, very true. Oh man, I just wish that's one area of music I wish I knew more about, was the recording aspect of everything. Because I still think it's funny because people are just like, you record a podcast, you got a studio, and it's like, yeah, quote unquote studio. It's a computer with 2 microphones plugged into it. It's not that big a deal, But then again, like you said, you recorded a single off of Glad at your own house, and you've recorded stuff at other people's houses, which, believe it or not, the punk band I'm in, we recorded our first EP at someone's house, and anymore, that's almost all you need. You almost don't need to pay the super high end fees to go to a place that's like a dedicated studio space anymore.
Right. Well, and for me, when I recorded a song for somebody, when I recorded that at my house with my setup, once again, for me, that song personally, I wanted to try and see where I could be at in the recording process, because if I'm honest, I do enjoy having somebody else there to work with.
Yeah.
So I do prefer that. I like that. I like being able to have somebody else and bounce off different ideas. I mean, I even remember, I'm pretty sure it was Caleb when he was recording. I know there's a few times would suggest things, and I told him, I'm like, listen, man, it's not going to offend me. If you think something would sound better, let me know, because I want it to sound better. So if you have an idea, that you think a different route we could go, I'm cool with that. Obviously, as long as it doesn't change the whole song. But I think it just, once again, other people having suggestions, where they've done this so much on how to make it sound the best that it can. So
yeah, and I mean, what's the worst you're gonna say is no?
Yeah, I was like, well, I'll let you know if the answer is no, but it doesn't offend me at all. No.
Yeah, I mean, I love having that that concept around as well, having somebody else to bounce the idea off of.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another one of those weird life to music parallels, where it's it's almost better in life just to have somebody else there to bounce some ideas off of than it is to try to struggle through it all alone, and then right before you know it, you're just like, this is great, and people are like, no, that sucks, and you're just like, well, this is what I've been doing with my life for a while, so cut me some slack, or whatever. But it is kind of nice to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. Like we said, even if you only take half of the ideas, they still gave you good ideas and you used them, and it's nice to have buddies there to play music with. Do you think that We already talked about that. Do you think that that
Yeah.
helped you out? Yes, it very much. We very much already discovered that it did. Having somebody there to ask about like how did you do this and things like that. In your younger years and your formative years. So what do you think? Do you have like something else in the pipeline? Let me ask you that. That's another one I was going to say. Because
Yeah.
Glad came out in April, which is just a few months ago. But it seems like you've got this thing where, as of late, you've been kind of putting out like an EP or single, about every 6 months to 8 months, maybe. So we got to be getting pretty close to the next project, right?
I was gonna say, I wish I could say, oh yes, but no, I would, I would say nothing concrete. But yes, I am. While playing shows, trying to write, really trying to get that album. Because I would say right now, yeah, I've got about 4 songs that I'm like, yes, I like these. I want to see where I can go with them. But I think it's just waiting a little bit longer, having those other songs. So no, nothing for sure right now, but hopefully soon, yes.
Nice. So it sounds like for now you're doing a lot more of your you're playing live. You're focusing more on playing live than you are on studio time. Do you find it hard to balance the two? Let me ask you that.
For me, because right now it's kind of like I'm working on booking more shows, playing more shows, so that's kind of where I'm focused. So I would say in some ways, yes, it's hard, but only because that's where a lot of my energy is focused, getting ready for that next show to make sure that it's going to sound as good as possible for the people listening. So yeah, wherever, because I would most definitely say if I'm going to sit down and be like, okay, I need to work on the album, probably would put, live shows, as a second priority. But I think it's just because where the focus is at. Because at the same time, I want to have fun with it and not be burnt out to where like I've got to set deadlines. It has to be here. I think it's good to have, those goals and somewhat of a rough idea, but I don't want to get burnt out by like, oh man, I didn't come out with another, EP or album, at this time, just not get burnt out by the process, still have fun with it.
Yeah, you don't want to make your plans too rigid. You got to be a little bit flexible, that's like the spice of life. Well, variety is the spice of life, but you all get what I'm saying. Seriously though, if you put yourself in this box where it's like I got to come out with a song every month, you're not gonna put your heart into it some months, and that's gonna be probably the toughest part about it. But I have found that with some of the singer-songwriter buddies I've been playing with, that they were telling me like it's kind of difficult because once you get in studio mode, it's tough to be like, all right, let's book 2 shows this week, or let's book 5 shows this month or something. It's tough to do that when you're trying to make the music in the studio. Once again, studio, air quotes, whether it's your house or somebody else's house or a basement or an actual studio, it doesn't matter. It's got to be tough, But you do have some shows on the books here coming up. We were talking about a little bit earlier. Let's talk about those real quick before.
Yep. So I mentioned playing the music. The band's going to be playing music festival in Muscatine, Muscatpalooza. We'll be playing September 4th on stage at 5:30. That show will be fun. We're playing with a lot of other bands, and it's the first time that they're having this music festival. So it should be fun. It's outdoors. It's right by the river. So
cool.
It's going to be like great scenery. Yeah. And then September 18th at 11:30, I'll be playing in Creston for the Creston Arts Festival.
Is that 11:30, like before noon? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I said, you're closing down the bars, man. Jeez.
Closing down, yeah. So that'll be fun. And that's at a local coffee shop, Brick and Bell. So that also, I'm looking forward to that because it'll be fun. Another festival going on.
Nice.
So those for what's the shows I got coming up next month. And then, hopefully just, from there, I'm always trying to book different shows and whatnot. But for next month, that's what I got going on show wise.
Nice. If people want to see your shows, I'm sure they can check you out on social media. We talked earlier, Facebook and Instagram are the two big ones you use. And as far as I'm concerned, that's justifiable because Twitter is a dumpster fire. No, Twitter's Twitter's. I've tried so hard to get back into Twitter, and it doesn't seem to have much traction. But as far as Instagram and Facebook, do you know your tags for those, your @ symbols for those?
Yeah. Yep. I was gonna say it's Music Mike Walsh, and that should get you to both my Facebook and Instagram, which I post and use the most. And on Facebook, for different the events tab will have upcoming shows and whatnot. So if people want to find out when I play, you can go there to the events. It'll be on the page.
Nice. If you guys don't want to type that in, it's going to be real easy. Scroll into the description sections, click the links, follow, subscribe, like, share, comment, the whole 9 yards. They're right down there, so don't think like, oh, I got to remember this. I got to write this down. Here, let me pause the podcast. No, it's right there. Just click it and go to town. I hope to catch one of your shows, because like I said, this is a weird one. Before we did the podcast, we didn't know each other. You know, we kind of blindly met each other. Let me put it this way: the way I met you pretty much was through your music, because you sent me a message, and then I was like, I'm gonna check this guy's stuff out. And then I listened to your music, and I was like, all right, I'm in, you know? So believe it, like, as weird as it sounds, I met you through your music, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that.
I met you through the podcast.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. It's full circle. It's like a marriage made in heaven. Oh, my gosh. Oh, geez. Well, it's got some stellar stuff out. If anybody hasn't checked it out, check it out. The new single, Glad. There's 2 songs on it. It just came out in April. It's amazing. I highly suggest checking out One More Beer as well. I really liked that one. I know a bunch of buddies that I have that would probably really, really dig that song. Just throwing that out there for anybody. If you drink beer, listen to this song. You'll smile and like it. It's a great song. I was really blown away by the whole catalog. I can't wait to come see you live sometime. I know we're like most of the state away from one another, but I'm sure we can pull it off eventually somehow. So
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So once again, if anybody's looking for anything, the links are down below. Mike, you've been a great guest. Do you have anything else you want to talk about on the podcast while we're still here?
Nothing comes to mind. Just want to say thanks for having me on. It's been awesome, and I enjoyed just coming on and talking music with you. Love doing it. Yeah, man. This is what it's all about. Just networking and meeting new people. And dude, I dig the music. Keep at it. I really do. Thanks. Yeah. Don't go away. After I end the recording, I'm going to talk to you afterwards. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sure. Thank you. There it is. Another episode. It's kind of crazy because, like, we talked about it a little bit. Didn't know each other. Pretty much the first way I met him was listening to his music online, and then like our first interactions, you guys got to see it there. That's what's one of the crazy things about that is the fact that I get to talk to a lot of different people. I think, and I try my best to get as many new people in here, or people that might not be familiar with, a lot of my listeners are from a few different segments of the music scene around Iowa, so I'm trying to get, all the scenes to kind of bridge together so people can at least see some of the people in all of the areas. So I'm trying my best to get out there and recontact with some people that might have got lost in the mix in my messages and things like that. So if I've messaged back to you and it took me a while, I'm sorry, but just shoot me a message back whenever you get the chance. And if you want to be on the podcast, hit me up. I'll do my best to accommodate it in my weird schedule that I have. I'm kind of a not busy and busy guy all at the same time. So hit me up. You never know. I'll try and get you guys on the podcast. I got a handful of different people on the hook for the next coming weeks. Let's hope we can get a couple of them scheduled out here and get them done. So, I got to say big thanks to Mike. It was one of those things where I think when this came down to it, it was just like, well, can you do this today? And it's like, actually, yeah, I can. So I just moved a couple things around and boom, we got it done. And he's a great guy. It's really fun to meet people like that and have him be open and honest and talk about music and just be like, what kind of stuff do you have going on, or what's your thought process behind this, or how did you switch from this to that, and it's really kind of cool because everyone's got a little bit of a similar but a very unique story all at the same time.
The similar thing would be, how'd you get good? I practiced. So that's something that comes up so often in this. Practice, be around others, find a buddy, challenge yourself, challenge others around you, get out of your comfort zone. They're not just music lessons, they're life lessons, and it's so fun to hear them come up over and over and over again in these podcasts. So hats off to Mike for coming on and joining me and talking with me. I had a great time. So check out his links down below. I got all the links down below that I could scrounge up. And give him a like, give some of his music a listen. I bet you'd like it. It's singer-songwritery, but it's not quite just that. And that's another thing. A lot of music, you can't really pigeonhole it anymore. I feel like for a while there, everything was kind of getting cookie cuttery, and now we're all back to, at least on the independent scene. So if you guys are looking for some of his links, check them out down below. Some great stuff. That's all I gotta say. If you're looking for some of the Audible Farm links, easiest place to go there is audiblefarm.com. If you want to support the podcast, you can do it monetarily by checking out our new t-shirts in our shop. There are new t-shirts back in stock. Most sizes available. Some have already sold out again. So if you guys are looking for those shirts, buy them up before they're gone. I didn't even want to make a second order of these. I was going to just have a small first run, but I made a second order, and I bet these things are going to go to pretty quick. So check them out if you're looking for a t-shirt. I've got some t-shirts available for sale. Or find me at a show somewhere, and maybe I'll cut you a little bit of a discount on the t-shirts. You never know. So I've got t-shirts available. If you want to support by watching the video versions of this, you can find the video versions of the podcast at audiblefarm.com. It costs $1 a month. Patreon.com, not Audible Farm. Patreon.com/audiblefarm. There it is. What a promo. That's $1 a month. So check that out if you want to. If you guys want to support non-monetarily, guess what? You're doing it. You're listening to the podcast. Thank you very much. You can like, subscribe, share. Go to the Facebook, go to the YouTube channel. If you're listening on YouTube right now, hit subscribe. Anywhere you go, or just interact with me online in some fashion. Give me a comment. What did you think of the episode? Like I said, share it with your buddies. Word of mouth works great. If you have bought a t-shirt recently, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I've sold a lot of t-shirts recently. I've gotten a lot of comments, a lot of people loving them, so thank you very much. I really appreciate it. If you guys are wondering about the new t-shirts, go to shop.audiblefarm.com. The graphics were done by Brent Licata, past guest, who is also my graphic designer. So hats off to Brent. He's made all the logos. Every logo you guys have seen Audible Farm-wise, he's made them all. All I do is small edits here and there with images. But if you guys want to learn more about that, go listen to the Brent Licata podcast. It's a while back. It's been a while since he's been on here. But hats off to him for the great design. I appreciate it. So if you guys are out there looking for another episode, next week there should be another one. I'm working diligently to get somebody scheduled in there. I bet I can find somebody. So thanks for listening. I'll check you guys all out next week, and we will have another episode out. All right, peace.